Okay. I'm gonna get a better shirt.
Hello, this is Truth Be Told Transformation, and I'm Bonnie Burkert, here to share tools for transformation to live your highest truth. So what does that mean? What does that mean to live your highest truth? I think it's really authenticity. And it's funny because I just heard that Merriam-Webster dictionary called authenticity, called it out as the word of the year. So really, I'm here to talk to you and to bring you people that have found something that's true for them and have become experts in it and are helping us to, with those tools that they've discovered, as well as then listening into what kind of tools we need. So one thing that I will say has been super valuable for me is nourishment, okay? So finding the right foods and really high vibrational foods that create clarity, maybe help me want the bad things less. And I will say that Chinese tonic herbs have always been fascinating. I used to live in New York City, lived near Chinatown, always wanted to go there. And I went to Santa Monica once upon a time and found a herbal tea garden. And this gentleman that we're going to be talking to today was part of that scene and went on to do wonderful things with his mastery in Chinese tonic herbs. So I'm going to be introducing here in a moment Rehmannia Dean Thomas, I'd say a longtime mentor and somebody who's helped me on my wellness path as well as my spiritual path. Welcome, Rehmannia. It's wonderful to see you.
Hi there. Great, Bonnie. Good to see you
Hi.
again.
So let's just talk. Let's give everybody a little bit of an overview of your history with your latest product line and what Chinese tonic herbs are.
Thank you. Well, yes, I've been on quite a journey in this life and others before it. It's a Chinese herbalist. Even though I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, kind of the outskirts on the west side of town, somehow Chinese ideology, philosophy, and Chinese herbology came to me in my life at a very young age. And I've been very fortunate to have been mentored and guided by great masters in this field, in this life. And I'm starting to get to understand it now. It's an extremely fathomless philosophy, not only a system of herbology, but a general philosophy of life that we can follow, can really give us a lot of insight into how to maintain health between two forces called yin and yang. Yang is the outpouring and yin is the intaking and restoring. How do we stay in that center point? That place is called the Tao, T-A-O. So Taoism is about staying there. So our lineage is essentially predates Taoism and created the precepts of what became Taoism is to learn to stand in that middle place in our lives where we're really firm in our body, mind, and spirit and in our path in this life and not easily blown by the wind, you know. And then what these great masters did was that in seeking to maintain this homeostasis of the primary energies of life, they found herbs over thousands of years that they paid a lot of attention to and great reverence to a handful of herbs that have only been found throughout the last 2,000 years that have risen to the top of the heap to help us maintain that homeostasis in that place. And those herbs are referred to as tonic herbs. We're starting to hear a little bit about that these days due to my great mentor, the great Master Herbalist Ron Teeguarden, and myself now over the last 25 years out there talking about it too, after training with him for a while. We are learning about these great herbs that were discovered over all that time to help us maintain that homeostasis. And it couldn't be a more important time because look at what is happening to our physical world and really our way of life, our way of knowing that how we lived and our paradigm of existence over the last 10,000 years is changing, and it must change. There's an imminent need for change. And it's interesting to me and fascinating for me to think that these great tonic herbs that these masters discovered so long ago are so important and prevalent today in our lives, maybe more so than ever. As the world around us starts to change, we need to be able to maintain homeostasis of our bodies and our health and our stress, our spiritual equilibrium as these changes occur. So one of my primary concerns has been to discuss the changes that are coming and what it is that we need to navigate through them.
Excellent. Well, and it's great. And I appreciate you kind of giving an overview of your background as an herbalist. And yet I did title the show Mankind's Evolutionary Leap. And because we did a little pre conversation about what shall we talk about this time, and just so you know, Rehmannia was on my show. He's one of my first guests when I first started Truth Be Told Transformation, and so you can go back and learn a lot more about the herbs. But you have vast wisdom, and I used to love watching you lecture around the Southern California area at different events, such as a Bhakti Fest, or we talked about the Conscious Life Expo, which that's great. And you're going to be there we saw you in 2022. You'll be there in 2024, 23, and then, but also next year in 24. So shout out to Conscious Life, because I know Truth Be Told is going to be there as well. So yes. So Rehmannia, we'll come back around to the herbs, and if there are any specific questions, let us know. But hey, let's talk a little broader strokes here, because I'm with you. Things are changing. People are mankind's going to have to change. It's all going
imminent.
So fast. Mm-hmm. So what's your purview on how we're going to deal with this all?
Thanks, Bonnie. It is a passion of mine to discuss this, because I have put a lot of energy and a lot of prayers and thoughts, and sought downloads and received many downloads about where we're at and where we must go at this time. So you see, a lot of us, there have been seers and sages all through the years, and visionaries through the centuries, starting way back, Madame Blavatsky and all the herb bunch, coming out of Russia in the late 1800s. All that spiritual group that came up and created the Theosophical Society. They were all talking about the evolution of mankind into a higher state of being than we currently are. And we've been there waiting, all this time. And so I thought, well, why didn't we get those changes? What was holding that back? And what it was is that evolution itself, I have now recognized that evolution requires an organism, a species, to live out the full stage of its previous stage of existence before it is ready for the next. And then when the next stage comes, it is oftentimes accompanied by some kind of cataclysmic trigger point, so that the species is no longer capable of remaining in the old state of consciousness. Now, the thing that I recognized when I looked at the whole metamorphosis of the butterfly, we've all talked about that so much, but what I recognized was the larvae stage, the early, the immature phase of its evolution. I'm sure that that larvae would love to just stay a larvae, wouldn't it? And just cannot continue eating away and not thinking about the path of its destruction, just, hey man, I'm happy, it's just like, I got my latte, I got my pretzels, and here they are,
Right.
Let's have fun, right? And then all of a sudden some component goes, no. And so there's a little bit of a slap, and then that larvae goes, oh my God, okay. So then it starts to kind of regurgitate the proteins of its prior consumption. It creates this web around itself. So look at where we're at right now. What is the web what is the cocoon we have just created around ourselves? It's the internet. The internet is a repository of everything that we've done since just prior to Egypt and Sumeria. And then, we're gleaning insights further back now, of course. And that is the cocoon that we've created. So we're inside. Now, when the larvae is inside its cocoon, it goes into what's called a pupa stage, where it completely turns into a different shape and different form.
Right.
And we're not going to have to do that. I don't believe that Homo sapien is going to have to suddenly grow a big horn out of our head or to survive,
Wings.
or like an extra elbow or, another fingernail or something. We don't have to do that to survive. Would the Grand Master, if you want to call it God, whatever, that decides when that larvae is going to have to stop its consumption and go through that painful ordeal of reincarnating into this winged creature that becomes a pollinator and winds up giving back what it took during its larvae stage.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if we are ready to do that, then the grand creator has the plan for that larvae to do that. The plan for our stage is already in our minds. Our minds already, a psychologist since the 1940s were saying we're only using about 10% of our brain capacity. The rest was built in by the Grandmaster Flash, or whatever you want to call it, already. But we weren't at that stage of evolution to walk into those rooms yet. We still had to go through the stage of consumption, burning, eating, consuming carbohydrates and proteins, and trying to have power over the world and nature. Right. Now that has led us to the tipping point that is the trigger that will now compel us to say, oh, we can no longer live in that stage of consumption. That's the tipping point that evolution requires to compel us to go into that other part of our mind and open up a new room in there. You know what that is? Our intuitive minds. Our intuitive minds are already there. There have been, as I said, there have been seers and great masters who've come and shown us, Edgar Cayce, the great master psychic. They were here to kind of give us an idea of where we're headed, but because the future of Earth is going to be more challenging, and we are going to have to be able to intuit that way's safe, that way's not, that water's clean, that's not, that we can eat that plant, that guy's lying to me, he's not,
right.
This is going to be the mechanisms of our coming survival in this new phase of our collective evolution. So what happens when we might consider this the beginnings of the mature phase of our evolution it is imminent because it is being instigated and being necessitated by our previous way, causing our Earth's equilibrium to be in danger. And so we have to stop the prior consumption. And when we open up that higher part of our mind where we become intuitive, we know that guy's telling me the truth, he's lying. What happens? No one can lie to you. And that means we can only tell the truth to each other. And that means we have to love each other. And what happens? We go into an energy eye associated with the heart chakra, the beginning of our mature phase as a species. What is the heart about? It is about giving. The heart chakra is green. I symbolize that as giving back to the earth what we took in that larvae stage, in that earlier phase of our evolution. And we are sitting at this threshold. And this time, I think maybe Edgar Cayce, maybe Madame Blavatsky, maybe all of these seers might have said this as early as the late 1800s, but they weren't facing the potential catastrophic circumstances for our survival that we are now. And that will be the trigger that will force us, if you want to put it that way, to go into this mature phase in earnest and no longer play around and toy around with the idea of it.
Okay, wow, there's a lot to talk about there. And I feel all of it. It's really, really fascinating. And I love that you're referencing, the ancients or those who came before us. So if we're talking about the spiritualists, the theosophists from the late 1800s or way further back. So I think that when you're talking about, let's just touch, there's much to digest here, but let's talk about the intuitive knowing, Rehmannia, because I feel that, again, as an herbalist, I feel that there are some of the tonic herbs can really assist us with that higher frequency lifestyle, just higher vibes, right? Yeah. And I think I'm just going to comment and you can weigh in on it, but I think we're going to need to understand that assessment of truth more than ever. Truth be told, here we are.
Yes.
Right. But I
Yeah.
think that I love that in terms of what you were describing as interacting with people and how we're sensing that. But I
Yeah.
think we're going to need to know that in what we're reading and what we're
Yeah.
watching these days.
Yeah.
And Tony Sweet here in the studio with me, he and I were just talking about AI before you came
Mhm.
on and the uses of that. So I think it's all moving quite quickly. There's a huge amount of
Yeah.
information out there. And
Well, you just,
I
you
feel
just
like
said three.
we need to ground
Yes.
into
Oh,
ourselves and into our
okay.
heart. So I really like that
Mhm.
you're talking about the heart chakra to
Mhm.
better know. So,
Mhm. Mhm. Well, you just touched on about three or four different aspects of our point that I'd like to elaborate on. The first thing you were thinking about, like, how do we recognize this trigger? Knowing that we are must be in truth. What is that? How do we know we're in that truth? Well, the interesting thing is that I came upon my beliefs by watching over the last 10 or 15 years while I was writing a book called Threshold of the Fourth Chakra about this very thing that I hope to get it actually put out there and published soon because it's pertinent. But what I noticed at that time was that I'm noticing I was working at the Elixir Bar at Erewhon Grocery, where I created the first sort of reishi coffee drinks, by the way.
yum.
And these young people would come in who were on another level of evolution. They were clearly older souls. They had clearly deep perception. They were clearly heart-based people that I was meeting while I was working there. And the first thing that I noticed was that these people cannot be lied to. If you were to tell someone an untruth, and I think I even kind of tried it one time. I tried to embellish a little truth and kind of put a little in a little something in that wasn't exactly true, and I saw the person's eyes like that.
Fascinating.
And so it's like I saw that these young people were already developing this. And when you just said you finalized your statement about AI, um, I actually think AI is going to become possibly an inadvertent ally in this, because we will have to deeper know from our intuition what is real and what isn't in the information that we're receiving. You know,
Wow. Excellent.
and the politics today and everything, we really have to know what the real situation is, and we're obviously not going to get that through kind of like just relying on outside sources, media sources and whatever. We've got to just know. And I don't believe in the idea of just believing. You got to know, you got to do your research, and you got to, oh God, that word research has been destroyed lately. But you've got to, for our survival is going to require that we know the real answer to whatever it is that's coming up. That will start with stuff like AI saying, who wrote this? What is this about? Is this real or not? I've got to know if this is real or fake. And at the same time, coupled with like, I need to get an extra coat for the next week. It's I need to load up with water. I need to eat this plant out of my yard. And all of these things are going to become necessary for survival because the Earth's going to shake us up a little bit.
Hmm.
And I have absolutely no doubt. And going back, I did have my period where I gave up on us and just said we've blown it. Might as well just go out and party and forget about it.
Oh,
And that's when I had my breakthrough. That's when I wrote my novel, The Hessian, which gave me a lot of these. I channeled this science fiction story that's coming out. It's a parable about all this, but it takes place on another planet. But it parodies our experience here. And these children have already gone through this ship. So it's a little bit of a guidebook. And so, but yeah, when I came out of that and realized where we're standing, I recognized that, that there is a plan at hand. And when humans are clever creatures, and when we have to stare our own potential mortality in the face, our own potential extinction, we are going to become incredibly creative and ingenious, and with technology to clean up the world. I actually, if we had time, I'd go back and talk about some of my theories about why they built the pyramids, because they correlate with this. Briefly, there was an ice age that was occurring from 12,000 BC called the Younger Dryas Ice Age, where ice was coming down, and it froze out the Neanderthal. That's why they died out. And
Uh-huh.
Homo sapien was younger, was smaller, more agile, and able to travel to the equatorial regions where they could survive. And they found equatorial fats there that helped them with their brain synapses. They saw the snow coming. So what kind of structure do they think? I've got to build a structure to survive under 200 feet of snow and ice. What should I do? I build a big stone structure with a crystal pyramid on the prism on the top for light to go in. And now they know there are all these chambers under the pyramids with apartment complexes and even boats and grain silos and everything down there. And they know the top of the pyramid was a prism, was a crystal prism. So why were they so concerned about building such an intensely labor-intensive structure? Because they were probably concerned that they were going to be covered by ice and snow. And that's just, I mean, it's just a theory of mine. But I think now that we're coming to a period where we refer to as global warming, but we're going to be just seeing extremes of our weather, and the Earth's shaking us up, man. Our technology and our ingenuity as a species is going to skyrocket. And I'm very excited to see this, along with part of it coming from that intuitive mind. This is what we've got to do. We've got to build this contraption to suck carbon out of that, dioxide out of the atmosphere, and to reestablish mycorrhiza in the soil. I mean, how are we going to do that, right? The answers are coming. And so the third part of your question, what are some of the tools regarding tonic herbs that I think are here for us in this equation? Is absolutely no doubt in my mind, it is reishi mushroom is one of the primary tools that is being brought to us into our consciousness. Reishi has always existed. And the ancient Chinese knew about it 20,000 years ago. They called it the herb of spiritual immortality. They called it the mushroom of good fortune. They said it initiates benevolence and benevolent cycles of health. What it does is it reconnects us through a kind of a metaphorical mycelial web, that's what mushrooms do, back into the all, into the entirety. And this is our antenna back into the cosmos, the entirety. I'm speaking, you can take what I'm saying at a grain of salt and say you want to check out, but check it out. Just try and see if you agree that taking reishi mushroom, after about a week or so, you will start to notice you're feeling like you're plugged back into a more cosmological view of life. And I think that mushroom is showing itself to us because it is our time in our evolution for us to be ready to understand it and to see it and to take it. And it is, I believe, a key, like most mushrooms are. Some are psychotropic, reishi is not. It just reestablishes our connection to the all, to the immensity. And
I think it's great. And I mean, it's wonderful to
tools.
see people's interest and acceptance of that mushroom in particular, but other mushroom formulas. And I'm not talking about the psychotropic. I mean, there is obviously an upside to what's going on with microdosing, and for a lot of people too. Tell us your website, by the way, if people are interested in seeing how they can add this to their diets.
Thank you, Bonnie. This is supertonicherbs.com. My company is Super Tonic Herbs, and I have some tonic herbal formulas that I designed based on the original 5,000-year-old materia medica of what we call classical Chinese medicine, was the original Chinese medicine that was more focused on prevention and empowerment. It wasn't really focused on healing yet and sickness. Maybe healing and sickness didn't exist yet way back, 5,000 years ago, when people were still hunter-gatherers. At that time, what they wanted to do was be able to get away from that tiger, or they needed their intuition to understand if this plant was edible and that wasn't, and that's how they discovered most of the great tonic herbs. And so all of this was done through a mind frame that I believe we're being compelled to recapture at this time. I think these great masters were already in that 20,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question fully?
Yeah, definitely. No, 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 this is really, really great. And you mentioned your book, so let's talk a little bit because you've written quite a few books, and some of them are on more the Chinese tonic herbs, which
Yeah.
sound fascinating. Really working with our life force, which is a big
Yeah.
part of it, and certainly one of the goals with the what I'm offering up here on these shows is to work with our energy. Now, I feel like you're somebody who's been doing it your whole life. And through
Hmm.
this, I think you're just connected in a higher way. I think I mean, when I listen to you talk, I feel like it's just coming through. And it seems that your story, the book of the Hessian,
Yes.
it has come through in that same way. So it's a novel, correct?
Yes. I'm sending you can I send you
Are
a
you going to
picture
send
of it
us a
right now?
photo? I think we have a picture of the book cover that we can pop up as well for people to see
Well,
it.
that's good enough. That's an early, yeah.
Is that an
Um,
early cover? I think I got a
yeah,
little
that's
bit
all
mixed
right.
up because you know what? You are ever evolving with this story and tale. And so, um, if people want to learn a little bit more about what we're talking about here, this
Hmm.
evolutionary leap, would you say that your novel would be one place that tells a little bit more of this
Yeah.
possibility?
Yeah. I think everyone who's ever written any kind of book is probably very proud of it and may hold it, may hope the world reads it. But in this case, um, I was told long, long ago when I was 21 by a seer that I was going to produce something really great for humanity. And I think this is it. This book is it. It's the one. I was told to write it a while back. I channeled it. I tried to get out of it. I didn't think I could write. I didn't want to write a science fiction story. I had no idea how to do that. And I sat down with a clean slate, and this absolutely amazing story came out that is so profound and so beautiful. But I recently turned it into a full-fledged science fiction story. Earlier on, it was more of like a dystopian future story about the Earth, but I turned it into put it in another planet. Kind of took it out a little bit of the browbeating, context of the dystopia sort of context. But it's a parallel world where these two children named Quan and Shin are already at that stage of evolution that I'm talking about. And they are holding that Tao so perfectly that they are immovable. You can just tell throughout the book that they cannot be moved. They're so powerful, these two children. And they face an adversary of the people who are left over of the old world, who are kind of the representatives of some of the leaders, some of the ruling community here now, who are holding on to that old larvae way, right? They're just holding on. They don't want to let go of it, right? And these children are like, it's inevitable. And so forces come along. There's a passage of events that is just so wonderful about how they finally capitulate and learn from these children the true way of the future. I honestly do believe this book is my greatest agglomeration of my message that I've been developing over 20 years regarding everything I just said. It's all there in a parable form, which is a great way to acquire information. I'm a little tired of how-to books. I have a hard time reading them now. I want to read something that I got caught up in a drama. I can't put it down.
Story,
And that's
yeah.
what people say about this. But almost every paragraph has a profound message. I'm just really, really proud of it. It's called Children of the Hessian. We're supposed to release it at the beginning of the year. I intend to because I want to have it at Conscious Life Expo and I want to speak about it.
Fantastic. Okay, that's great. So and again, we can find information on your website to be in touch with you, correct? A mailing list, just so that we know when that's all coming out.
Yeah, my Facebook for the book itself is the Hessian Readers. That's Hsien, the Hessian book readers. Hessian book readers or Hessian readers.
Okay, that's great.
Come and join that. Come and join that.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
see it.
Okay, let's be a part of this for sure. I mean, we need to talk about it and really what we're trying to do here. I mean, I love this concept that you offered up for this conversation today about the evolutionary leap. And I mean, I've been knowing you for easily 12 years now, and I'm watching your evolution and how this information just comes that much more easily for you to share with us?
It's called getting old. No,
Older,
it's called
wiser?
wisdom.
Go ahead, own it.
It's called attaining wisdom through the years.
Well, and I mean, hey, it's all accelerated, so maybe we need it all the more. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
always like to ask people, so where do you feel? I mean, you've obviously commented on it in terms of the broad strokes of what's going to have to happen. But just how do you think mankind is evolving? I mean, where are we at in this ascension journey, if you will?
Every question you ask is just so, I think it's such a juicy one for me, to answer this. Thank you. But I'm going to go back to this, the larvae of that butterfly. Now it's in the pupa stage, right? Now you would call this somewhat of a painful stage for this organism because its exoskeleton just deteriorates and it turns into sort of like jello, right? But what happens is very interesting is that the immune cells of the larvae have to remain intact in order that it doesn't succumb to some kind of invasive or infectious element. And so the immune cells of the larvae represent its old stage. Now, as the once it's in this jello sort of form, the newly emerging cells of its mature phase start to pop up, kind of like popcorn popping up. And the immune cells at first see the newly emerging mature phase cells as something it's afraid of, something it's different. It doesn't want to change. It wants to hold on to that larvae stage. And the immune cells start to attack the newly emerging cells of that is going to become the butterfly. So this is actually a mechanism of evolution, is that evolution is not supposed to roll forward all that easily. There needs to be a bit of a pushback. There needs to be something going, wait a minute. I don't want you to do that. You can't do that. Because evolution has to roll forward with more of a determination, with more of a plan, more, robustly to overcome that which is trying to hold itself back. And if this wasn't the case, evolution would roll forward too quickly, and everything would turn into a giant jelly roll, sleigh ride. We need something there going, hold on there, you can't. Now we're seeing that stuff in our media, right? There ain't no global warming, and
Right.
all this stuff, and it's part of the gamut, because when we do finally make that shift, and all beings hopefully will make the shift and come in, and then we will look back and it won't have been just a joyride. We had to dedicate ourselves to this. We have to say, I'm dedicated to this shift, and I'm dedicated to doing what it takes, because it's not meant to just be that easy. I'm dedicated to cleansing my blood every spring and drinking my green tonics, drink green juices, and taking my tonic herbs and eating healthy and thinking positively and getting sunlight and drinking the right water and walking in the woods and all these things. Everybody talks about that, but evolution, maybe the more painful it is, the more rapid the change will result. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, it's interesting to maybe think of certain examples. And isn't there that expression, grist for the mill? I mean, right? So if it goes too smoothly, I mean, I think you need a little bit of that resistance,
Yeah.
and it actually will function better. But I think that also what I'm hearing from you is commitment, right? Is the
Commitment
commitment to
is the
is
key.
finding, it's
That's the
up
word.
leveling
I missed the word commitment. Yeah. I was
and
trying
up
to.
leveling, right? Which takes
Mhm.
work.
Yeah, yeah. It's just not meant to be easy, because we don't really learn that way. We learn by stubbing our toe and stuff, and we learn that pain hurts. We don't know pain hurts. We don't bump our elbow into the wall once in a while. Um, And so that is the mechanism but then evolution, the trigger is prodded by some kind of antagonist and some kind of cataclysmic component. Now, I came across some really, really important information from a microbiologist and paleontologist named Stephen Jay Gould, who wrote a while back, I think it was in the 1990s, a book called Punctuated Equilibrium. And I focus a lot on this in parable way in the Hsien, and then in my book Threshold of the Fourth Chakra, which we could say maybe is kind of a compendium to the novel The Hsien. That he says that paleontologists have looked at evolution, and they realize that it isn't just a gradual Darwinian, refinement up. It's more like a staircase, like this. And so what we see is in the paleontological record, a group from a herd suddenly evolves before a cataclysmic component element, suddenly evolves about 10-20% of this group suddenly are born with longer necks, like this antelope or something is born with longer necks. And all of a sudden, here comes the drought, and the herd cannot reach the lowest leaves. But the ones, somehow, the Grand Master Flash made it where about 20% of those newly birthed ones can reach it. Now, that means there's a divine plan behind all this. And we have to understand, and so many of us know that this cataclysm is coming, and so we're sort of like that percentile that is already is working on what it is we've got to do. And as I said, I'm sure it's just our intuition, just knowing this plant is I need it right now, all that. But so what happens is in Gould's staircase ideology, he sees that this group evolved, and here comes a cataclysm. It wipes out a bunch of species, and this group evolves this way through what we call quantum evolutionary leap. And then in time, it starts to balance out and level out into homeostasis and goes across the top part of that step where everything's just fine, into a form of a laissez, just like just easy life, right?
Okay.
And they don't see that here comes another event, and then that event then again represents when they face it, certain species have to get the tools beforehand, and they do, and they go through that quantum evolutionary leap, and then that levels out. And they've seen this in the paleontological record. And so you might see Homo sapien was one of those who survived the Younger Dryas Ice Age, whereas Neanderthal did not, because they were too big. They couldn't migrate. They tried to go down into caves and they froze there. And so this is the way evolution works. And we now, and one of the reasons I'm just thankful to be here talking with you about this is because I don't want to project, but I want to be prepared for the possibility that the coming earth changes that we're getting ready to face are something that we have never seen before, have to deal with before. They could be very, very, very challenging. And I commend everyone who's already listening to that download to know the truth and to know your backyard plant medicines and your survival mechanisms. I commend you. I don't want to project. I don't want to say this is going to happen. But hey, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? Let's just, let's be prepared just in case, because that's the way evolution works. Evolution throws a catastrophe at you, and you have to react to it and evolve to it. And I am thoroughly convinced after writing the Hsien that my spirit channels would not have downloaded this amazing story to me if it were all in vain. If this story that this represents, if we were just going to perish or whatever, there'd be no reason why our higher spirit guides would be giving us, downloading information to us like this. And so I've got this faith that we are going to rise up and create a paradise on this planet. I've already written a sequel to the Essene, which we're going to put out right away. It's called Essene. The two children in the book have a child named Essene, and the second book is about her. And she heralds the re-greening of their planet. Their planet is called Aja. And what they do, though, is they re-green it with food-bearing and herbivorous plants. Why not? If humans are the managers of reforestry, why not make it all edible and herbivorous and permaculture based? And so I think that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm extremely excited to see the advent of this. And, I may see the beginning of it in my own life. And I'm pretty sure most young people today will witness this advent. And I hope that we have the optimism about it and know that there is divine guidance here.
Well, this is great. I mean, because part of what you're saying could be, I'm not going to use the word scary, but obviously it's intense and concerning. Yeah. And I mean, you'd have to really be Pollyanna to not be knowing that our planet is going through changes in a lot of different ways and, spiraling into that. And I mean, hey, the only constant is change. But I feel like you really have an optimistic look at what is possible and certainly are exemplary of what you're offering us and how you're walking the talk and able to guide us. But again, not fear mongering, but again, I'm going to mention, in the upcoming book, right, the heart chakra, and that's not just, this isn't Valentine's Day stuff here. I mean, we're talking. I mean, there's a great knowing here in this heart center and a great force, right? And a great, amazing electromagnetic force. How fun to feel that and know that.
Yeah, I know.
And live by that.
Well, coming to an optimistic view requires staring the other side in the face. Because otherwise you're just, I don't want to use the word ignorant, but, faith alone is not enough. I say, look in the eyes of the, what do the Native Americans say? Don't judge a man until you walk 10 miles in his moccasins, but just look at what the potential of what's going on. Don't face it with fear. Like I said, face it with a knowing that we've got the tools. We're going to do this. We already have the technology to clean up the world. If 10 years from now, somebody says to me, man, you were on there telling everybody, blah, blah, get ready for blah, blah catastrophe. And it never happened. I'd be the first one to go,
yeah, right.
I'm glad, man.
It's a win-win. I was wrong, so you get to keep your planet.
Yeah.
But if you're right, we're rolling with it. I mean, I think we've seen this in the past couple of years that we've had to work together and patiently and take better care of ourselves. Without getting too specific, take better care of ourselves. Body, mind, spirit. Any parting thoughts for us here, Rehmannia? This has been so enlightening in so many different ways, but also inspiring, as you have for a long time been an inspiration to me.
Oh, thanks, Bonnie. You too. And I'll always enjoy our talks there. I will be out there in LA on February 9th to 11th at the Conscious Life Expo. And then I'm going to stick around in the Los Angeles area for a few more weeks just to do some other things. I believe I might speak at Peace Yoga on the 17th of February. And so I'll be around. I would love to communicate with people and I'd love to see you. But you're going to be, where are you going to be?
Oh, that's a big secret. We're not talking about that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we may, but look for maybe Rehmannia will join us in studio in March of 2024. I think that could be a really good possibility. No, it's really great. So again, this has been a treat, and it's great catching up on what all you're doing. I use your herbs all the time. My father, who is a very healthy 85 years old, hi, Gunther. He uses your spirit jing in the morning. Is that the name of it? Yes. So he loves those, and I love how you bring in the cosmology of these plants, of these mushrooms. I'm sorry, they're not technically plants, right? Mushrooms are its own organism.
They are extraterrestrial. They are a universal cosmic phenomenon. Mhm.
Absolutely. So it's just a reminder, we need to take care of our physical vessels, but also keep our spirits high, and
Yeah,
and feel the love, feel the unity, and
yeah,
we are attached. This is one of the great things about what we're doing with the show. We can reach everybody all around in that web that you've described, in this cocoon. But we're trying to put some good vibes into that cocoon as you
yeah,
all change and transform. So,
yeah.
Rehmannia, thank you kindly, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. Come back soon, and we appreciate you.
Sure will, Bonnie. Thank you all.
Namaste.
See you soon.
Cheers, everybody. Hey, this has been kind of wild, right? It's very intense, but listen up. There's so much possibility. And our shows on Club Paranormal, Truth Be Told, and the Minuteman Report are really here to report on people that are looking at life in a broader, higher consciousness, through broad and higher consciousness. So listen up and be sure to share with your friends and like and comment and follow and all those good things, because we need you to spread the word. I'm Bonnie Burkert for Truth Be Told Transformation, and we'll look forward to next episodes very, very soon. Thanks for watching, and until then, shine on.